diaphragm is our armor, energetically speaking, for the stomach. Soften this diaphragmatic armor with a little diaphragmatic dance, energy winding down and out of the body as you circulate in a clockwise direction. Let's soften the belly, lengthen the exhale, and start to digest life from a place of safety. Welcome to Monday Movements. I'm going to take you through a somatic practice for the stomach. And this is coming off the back end of our previous episode last week, where we talked about the psychosomatics of the stomach. So the mental, emotional, and energetic relations to any presentations in that organ, the stomach. For example, you may have reflux, you may have stomach ulcers, you may have indigestion. All these things can be related to something more than just the physical body, something more than just the medical explanation. And so if this is something you're interested in, I highly recommend you go back and watch the previous week's episode on the stomach psychosomatics so you can have some context before we go ahead and start the exercise for the stomach. So now that we got that all out of the way, when you're ready, we're going to start a somatic practice. This is primarily a instructional video. So when I take you through it this time, it's going to be a little bit shorter. There's not going to be as much space for you while we go through this particular practice, but at least you can familiarize yourself with the steps, and I'm going to put the full instructions in the caption below so that you can do this again and practice it if you found you got something out of watching it and following along with me this time. You can then go ahead and do the practices in your own space and time so that you don't feel rushed, so that you can get the most out of the somatic practice. So let's get started. So our diaphragm is our armor, energetically speaking, for the stomach. And so we're going to start there. We're going to place both hands on just below our lower ribs. So if you can feel your lower ribs, you might need to stick your belly out, take a big breath in, and you can feel them. So just placing your hands between the lower ribs and the upper abdomen. Now you can do this seated and laying down as well. So we're going to drop into this area first, the diaphragm, by doing some diaphragmatic breathing. So taking a big breath in, deep into the lower ribs, into the front, side, and back of those lower ribs, feeling the entire lower space, and then slowly exhaling. And going through this deep diaphragmatic breathing through the stomach, through the lower ribs in all directions, in 3 more cycles. Dropping the awareness to this space as you breathe through 2 more cycles. Notice the sensation under your hands. Notice the belly and the diaphragm expand on the inhales and contract on the exhales. And just take time to tune into this through the breath. Keep the cycle of the diaphragmatic breathing going. Now that we've done the 3 to kind of drop us into the diaphragm, start to just notice the sensations under your hands as you continue this cycle of breath, this cycle of deep diaphragmatic breathing. Noticing the belly and the ribs expand on the inhale. Noticing the ribs collapse and contract, the stomach contracting on the exhale. Notice as the diaphragm relaxes and expands on the inhale. And sense that contraction of the diaphragm on the exhale too. Then we're going to begin to kind of soften this diaphragmatic armor with a little diaphragmatic dance. So tracing the fingertips, you can use both hands or you can use one, whatever you feel like. But tracing the fingertips along this area of the lower ribs and diaphragm, now that we've got that awareness there. You can keep your eyes closed. You can look at me just for a bit of a guidance if you need to, but keep your eyes closed if you wish to. From there, dropping back into this space. And start to connect with this arch-shaped movement. So you'll notice that if we follow the ribs and the diaphragm, there's a little bit of a subtle arch to that tracing along the ribs and diaphragm as we connect to this space. Imagining your belly and diaphragm softening more and more with each exhale, with each fingertip glide. And you may like to do this with bare skin, so having the belly exposed. Bringing more sensation, dropping in more somatically. And then coming back to center, releasing your right hand, just keeping your left hand on the left side of your lower ribs. And dropping your attention even deeper through the diaphragm. Now that we've softened that armor, we've softened that resistance, we're going to bring our awareness deeper into the stomach now, on the left hand side of your ribs with your left hand. And we'll begin inquiring here through the mind, through the mental body. What texture do I notice under my hands? Or perhaps what temperature do I notice under my hands? Is there a subtle warmth, a coolness? Is there a denseness, a kind of fuzziness? Does it feel hollow? Does it change if I lengthen and soften each exhale? Just witnessing, taking time to witness what evolves under your hand. Not putting any pressure on yourself to notice anything, and also not judging what comes up and overanalyzing, just simply witnessing what comes through and noticing how you describe these things, how you sense these sensations under your left hand. And then you can place your right hand on top of the left if you wish to, just checking to see if there are any emotions here. What is the stomach feeling and desiring right now? Are there any emotional messages that the stomach has for you right now? Perhaps it's a boundary or a sense of letting go. And then dropping in deeper into that emotion, is there a desire? Is there something your stomach is begging for? Perhaps there's a form of nourishment your stomach is begging for. Not necessarily food, but even just a message for yourself, for your body. Something you are desiring to nourish your soul, to nourish your body, to nourish your mind and your heart. And then, as always, I like to finish on an energetic note. So with the right hand now, you can release the left. We're going to start to softly trace belly circles around the abdomen. So this is where the full digestion comes in now that we've delved through the diaphragm, through the stomach. Begin to visualize a yellow warm light emitting from the fingertips, stirring up any stagnation up to the surface through the digestion. Energy winding down and out of the body as you circulate in a clockwise direction, the direction of the digestive system, and energetically inviting what you would like to be digested and to finally release, to fully digest, to fully let go. And just taking time to allow what wants to release, what you desire to release, to fully digest and let go. You can come to stillness with your right hand now, perhaps placing both hands on your upper abdomen, and finishing with the incantation. I absorb what is mine, and I release what is not mine. Letting that set in. And when you're ready, slowly coming back to the space around you, doing some object orienting, which means looking at some objects, just naming them. And then noticing any sounds inside the room, outside the space you're in even. Start to come back through the senses. And from there, you might like to journal your experience. You may like to settle and close up softly with an iced tea or some kind of practice that you like to further integrate the experience. I highly recommend you take a look at the notes below if you enjoyed this practice, doing this practice with me, and trying it in your own space and time where you have no time constraints, where you don't have only like 10 to 20 minutes like this video is, trying it where you can really create space. Maybe you have an hour or two, so there's no real time pressure in that way. And if you do try without time constraints and you have a really nice experience, I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode of the Monday Movement series next week.